How's it going, everybody? My name is Forrest, and I run the YouTube channel Hashoshi. I'm a blockchain developer, decentralized application developer in industry, and my main focus is just to bring education into the space on YouTube and social platforms.
Um, cool. Great to have you for us. So this is Anatoly, co-founder, CEO of Solana, and I'm also running the No Sharding podcast. So really awesome to have you.
Awesome,
Um,
yeah. Thanks for having me.
yeah, so I want to I guess start off maybe with give a bit of a kind of your history in crypto. How did you get into this space?
Sure thing. Yeah, so I was in high school at the time. It was 2009, very end of the year, 2010, or early in the year. It was a winter time. I was in a computer science class in high school, and I wasn't paying attention, and I was on stumble upon, clicking, trying to find something to read, and the Bitcoin white paper showed up on my stumble upon, and I saw it looked cool, so I just started reading it. And I've always been the type of person who never knew what they wanted to do because I have so many interests, and every singular topic that I find ends up boring me after a while. So I need new stuff. And Bitcoin just had so much to it. It has game theory, economics, computer science, etc. So that ended up being my obsession. And then I just stuck with it, kept learning and reading and engaging with the community to the best of my abilities. And here I am, once I graduated school, I got a job full time doing development work and strategy work in the space. So it's been a long journey, but it seems like it happened so fast.
Yeah, I had I mean, I followed kind of Bitcoin development and then Ethereum ICO
Hmm.
and Ethereum, and I kind of missed the social impact of it. I thought it was cool tech, but I was like, this will never scale. Why would anyone want to use this?
Yeah,
Uh, but engineers are really often bad at identifying like the right social mix of events that could really take something off, you know? At the time, I thought Facebook was just a really terrible email client,
right.
right?
Yeah. No, it's always
Yeah.
interesting to look back and see what things seemed like early on, and then afterwards, like, wow, how did I did not evaluate that properly?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But when I did get the idea for Solana, I felt like it felt almost like an alien like communicated to me. Like I was like I couldn't sleep for 4 days. Like I was like, I think I have it. I think I solved scaling. Like it was kind of a crazy experience.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, it's been an interesting journey watching people approach the scaling debate. There's so many different approaches, and it's a challenge, that's for sure.
So as a developer, do do you see like the problems mostly scaling, latency, like just the talking to the chain, or is it just the tools are not there, so the UX is horrible?
I think it's a combination of a bunch of things. I think scaling is a challenge because, especially when you're working with clients who maybe aren't technical or maybe don't even understand blockchain super well, but they're interested in how it can affect and impact their business, they are not aware of that as a constraint, right? They may be used to modern, messaging or ordering services that are super fast, or Facebook that can do millions of transactions per second, right? It's not
Right.
where we are right now. And so explaining that to them and trying to reap the benefits of what blockchain offers now versus what it could offer years from now, that's a challenge. But from an engineering perspective, when you have engineering like theoretical constraints in terms of throughput, scale, whatsoever, and all that sort of thing, and you throw in a lack of tooling and poor documentation and those sorts of things, it is even more painful. So that would be the biggest thing that's challenging for me. It's honing in on what a useful implementation of a blockchain solution is, and then implementing it so that you can reap that value with the limited tools that there are out there.
Yeah, the current development reminds me of embedded systems development, which is kind of my background,
Hmm.
where you have like you spend 2 hours building and loading this thing, and then you hope that you get an LED light to turn on or off,
Yeah.
and then you don't know where it crashed if it doesn't turn on.
Right. It's like the no logs thing, and early on in smart contract development, because I use Solidity a lot, the errors that you get back from the EVM, even from the compiler, were very nondescript. It's like, hey, there's an issue, just letting you know, but
Yeah.
I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, to that end, that part's improved. It's by no means perfect, but a lot of the tooling that's come out there, the like truffle and all that sort of thing, those things make your life a lot easier if you're in the Ethereum ecosystem. Or now a ton more platforms are on the docket for them, so there'll be more truffle toolkits for other platforms soon.
Yeah. What tools do you use?
So when I do my original smart contract development, I have a little server that I use with Remix on it, and a test blockchain with I think it's either a 5 node cluster or a 10 node cluster, and I use that to test my apps, because then I can code my contracts, deploy them, and then interact with them in that rudimentary Remix implementation using Web3, and so it's a good simulation for my environment without having to build a UI and all the APIs to test things. And then for my actual solutions, I love to use Truffle to the best of my abilities, as long as the compatibility works out, because that allows me to use their methods for deploying contracts programmatically within my applications. It gives you a lot of cool testing functionality that you can use. So you can run automated tests, which I think every application should have a bunch of for your core APIs. So, those things I really, really like. And then for testing, I've used the Solium and Mithril tools to do like static analysis on smart contracts, and things like that are very helpful. Those would be my go-tos. ETHstats, the like monitoring dashboard for the blockchain itself, is also pretty helpful to see when you're pushing transactions, to watch them and how quickly they get mined, and watch the stats on the network too.
Got it. Yeah. Um, I've personally just often wanted to, develop in production.
Yeah.
Um, hold on, let me kill my notifications. I think that. Yeah. Yeah, let's restart. Okay. So I've often really wanted to develop in production, basically push the code to Ethereum and debug it live.
Yeah.
Um, and then get to, but rapidly iterate, right? So
Mm-hmm.
continuously push updates. Unfortunately, that's just really expensive. I mean, you can do that on the testnet, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, to that end, it's better to use the test nets early on when you're like really trying to figure out how stuff's gonna work. But I think then you're right, it's worth the cost when you start getting something that's close to your production ready. Pushing it up to the main net's the only real way to determine if it's gonna work the way that you want.
yeah, yeah. Have you looked into like ETH 2.0 and maybe like Near and a bunch of other projects that are building sharded systems and the complexity involved in the coordinating applications between shards?
Yes, I have I've done a lot of research on ontology, Neo, Icon, etc. Like Zilliqa is another one that uses scale or sharding, excuse me, and ETH 2.0. I think the biggest challenge is the actual core challenge of state sharding. Like, how can you actually programmatically, provably, and with solid finality reach agreement on state when you have sharded blockchains themselves, where the applications have to be truly shared, but you have potentially hundreds of different mini blockchains feeding to one beacon. That is not an easy problem to solve. And so when people ask, like, what's taking so long with ETH 2.0, it's not necessarily anything but how do we make this? It's not about making it work. It's about making it work in a secure fashion and making it work so that people actually trust it, because there's no room for error on that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the challenges are like insanely complicated.
Yeah.
Like one, especially for Ethereum, because they have this ecosystem that has a lot of value in it.
Hmm.
And how do you migrate into like a implementation of sharding with adversarial shards is something that's never been done, right? Like in
Agreed.
database world where you do shard, you always control the entire stack.
Right.
And there the problems are still like insanely difficult.
Certainly. Yeah. And that's what I find, I find funny if you go on Twitter, how many people are so angry because Ethereum 2.0 isn't out yet and it's slow and all that sort of thing. And look, I'm impatient too, but the reality is I know how difficult it is and how understated the difficulty of what they're building is behind the scenes. That doesn't reflect in the press releases and in the tweets and all those things.
I find it interesting that like while people are building sharding, we're also building inner blockchain communication. Like so, I Cosmos IBC spec came out,
Hmm.
but really like there's folks already building this stuff. Like when you when people plug like synthetic BTC right into Ethereum, that's going through like a MPC group, right,
Hmm.
building effectively a state channel. Um, those things are really neat because I don't know if there will be a single chain anymore. If interoperability is easy
Hmm.
and anyone can move state from anywhere they want, and it's really just paying for the fees and kind of the taking the risk during that transition,
Right.
um, then where will applications actually run? Do they even care what chain they run, or is it going to be like this heterogeneous mess?
Right. And that I think
Yeah,
is to me kind of a scary thought, because then you have, not to mention the fact that you have developers probably that are trying to build parallel things, or layer two solutions, for lack of a better term, like decentralized applications, et cetera, and services. They're not going to know where, they're going to have no predictability of where this stuff's going to be running, where people will use it, how it will be used. And it's already challenging as it is if you are on one single platform, let alone multiple. And a lack of standards in a decentralization world is interesting, because you have this big fight against having rules and regulations and, um, for lack of a better term, a central authority. You don't need the authority, but you need standards that everyone agrees upon so that stuff can work properly, when you talk about interoperability, at least. So it's funny because new standards, quote unquote, come out seemingly every month.
yeah,
They're like, we've solved interoperability. No one solved interoperability until
yeah.
there is an established standard that a lot of people use.
Yeah, I think the reality is like in software, right? People publish standards, but then whoever gets traction just implements it the wrong way, and that ends up being the thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that is really as simple as it
Yeah,
gets.
yeah,
So I would hope that we learn our lesson from the way that the internet panned out, where it was very much like that. Granted, the internet was not around when the internet started, so there weren't
yeah.
1,000 standards. There were a handful, and there are arguments for and against. But I think there were better protocols that came out there, but that didn't get traction and ended up losing in the end.
Yeah, I would be surprised if we learned our lesson.
Yeah, people don't learn
Yeah,
lessons very well.
yeah, 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 that's true. Um, I have like a couple quotes that you've made. Uh,
Cool.
uh, so one of them is investing in blockchain applications and cryptocurrency is not about money or making profit. It's about supporting a paradigm shift. Um, do you think that? Do you remember when you said that? How long ago was that? And do you still believe that?
It was a little while ago. I mean, it all runs together for me. It's a
Yeah,
blur, but I still believe that 100%, because I think one of the biggest problems in the space is that people are so focused on the profit part and the fact that, oh, this is a new thing that I can make money with, and I don't need to understand anything about it. Like people say all the time, oh well, people don't understand how email works, but they use it every day. It doesn't matter. But I'm not saying people need to understand how a protocol works, but they need to understand why what they're investing in is important and what gives it value. Just someone on Twitter, a talking head behind a cartoon avatar saying this is the best thing since sliced bread, doesn't mean that actually at its core what you're investing in has value. And so if you shift your focus from I want to make money with a speculative investment to I'm going to make a calculated risk on something that I believe in because XYZ, if it goes sour, because it still can, at least you can say I made a decision based on actual factual information that I understood, so I knew what risk I was taking. So people don't understand what they're risking right now is my issue.
That I agree. I mean, like the speculation is not driven by like solid technical decisions or even like solid business analysis, right?
Yeah, and you just like core value, like
Yeah,
principles of valuation. And
yeah,
look, like I'm not saying there's no profit to be had here, and that like I'm not on my high horse. I want to make profit. I think any sane person wants to make profit and make a living and do well, right? No doubt. I think it's just changing the purpose for which you're in the space, and I've been guilty of that too. My video that posted today actually was about me trying to shift my focus away from Bitcoin's price movement and like constantly refreshing Coinbase or Cash App or Coin Market Cap, wherever your app is, and refocusing on why people like it and why we believe it has value long term, and stop
yeah,
caring so much about where your portfolio is right now and freaking out about missing an opportunity, because if you look at Twitter, you look at YouTube, whatever, every day is a bull run or a bear market or a big buying opportunity.
yeah,
It's like you'll never ever time it perfectly.
yeah,
So there's no
yeah.
point.
Do,
Um,
do you think? I mean, like what do you think the paradigm shift was? Was it programmable money? Was it the fact that we have this um, large, like almost like this enormous multi-party computation that is now can create its own money, right? Like
yeah.
self-generating money up from consensus, or like is it like what was like the actual thing that launched this?
Yeah, if I could change one thing about my quote, I would pluralize the paradigm shift part. It's paradigm shifts plural because I think the first paradigm shift is indeed programmable money, but it goes beyond just programmable money because I would argue that in a sense there have been digital currencies in games like massive multiplayer games that could be argued were digital money because they had value, speculative or not. People believed in them. Like when I was a kid, I played RuneScape. I had items in that game that were worth tons of virtual money, and then there were services,
That,
legal or not, that would pay you real money, like US dollars, for the in-game nonsense. Basically,
yeah,
it was digital
yeah.
money. Yeah,
I played Ultima Online. That was my first, and then EverQuest, and I actually sold my EverQuest character back in the
yeah, there you go. I mean,
day.
and I would argue that that is digital money, even though it's
Yeah,
not, this, cryptographically secured digital money, and it's not, deflationary, etc., because the game developers have full control over it all. I think that was the key. It was a non-centrally owned protocol that established deflationary, non-governed monetary supply money online. And it wasn't even this guarantee like, oh, well, Bitcoin's going to be tens of thousands of dollars. It was like, it was an experiment, in my opinion, that ended up turning out better than the creator or creators probably ever thought it would. And then, you saw Ethereum kind of take that to the next, take that same technology, focus less on creating a deflationary asset because they brought it out and they did like sort of a funding round with an ICO, and they
yeah.
said, the supply was a lot higher, et cetera. And they said, well, let's do the same sort of thing, but decentralize information and computation and make applications non-centrally owned. So I think,
So
sorry, go
how
ahead.
old is Ethereum? How old is Ethereum now?
Ethereum
Like,
really like really hit it in 2015.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like almost 5 years old.
Hmm.
But what's weird to me is like I run something on AWS. There's no way for me to send money to anything else that runs on AWS
Hmm.
without going through like Stripe, right? Or
Yeah.
like, and that is like slower than Ethereum,
Yeah.
or as slow as Ethereum with like SPs that are much higher. That's crazy that after 5 years of like a bunch of kids putting together this programmable financial system, as kind of like MVP as it was, it's still the best one, right? By far.
Yeah. In
uh,
terms of its ability to be a platform, that's a lot. There are a lot of interchangeable terms in this space that I think are kind of dangerous because it's confusing to people who are new. Like Ethereum has a protocol and it is a platform. Bitcoin is a protocol, not a platform, because Bitcoin was not designed to be built on top of per se. That's why the Lightning Network was such a challenge from a technical perspective, because Bitcoin was not built with that sort of thing in mind. Ethereum was built purposefully with, you know, shared state computing and an economic model for sharing the computational load of like running code on the blockchain theoretically. They created a virtual machine with it that was integrated into it. I don't love the virtual machine. I actually kind of think the virtual machine kind of sucks right now, but that is what it is. It's better than nothing.
yeah.
Um, so there is a difference between a platform and a protocol. Ethereum is very much a platform for other projects to still kickstart and take advantage of blockchain without having to build their own protocol on their own. So
Yeah, it's still it's still, I think, like generation ahead of anything else in the financial system. So to me, that was like really like the big thing that Ethereum unlocked. I think what I think really, like in my mind, took like launched Bitcoin was actually the financial crisis, and this kind of like this crazy mistrust into both the US system and then the European one.
right, yeah, all
And
the big money.
right, like and there was this, weird group of people that seemed to like be shouting really loudly that there's an alternative,
Hmm.
and um, it's impossible to hack, and that was like the light bulb moment, I think, for the space. It was like, Satoshi sleeps well at night, right? Like you can't steal Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the coolest part, I think, is that people have no attributable identity to cherish and look to for answers for stuff, and like we're very much like, in a way, children left to their own devices to figure things out in the way that the world actually works. Bitcoin's very much like that because, with Ethereum, and I know I've said this on other podcasts, so if there are repeat listeners or viewers, my apologies, but Ethereum is interesting in the sense that it shows the human nature desire for centralization, and that people aren't inherently wired to want full decentralization except when things are good. Because when that DAO hack occurred and everyone's freaking out because they lost money or friends or family, what have you, lost money, where do they look? They look to Vitalik to fix it. They're like, figurehead, you created this. Can you fix this for us, right?
yeah.
And he did. People disagree or agree on the theory and the morality of what he did. I don't even really care about that too much. The point is, it shows people look to a figurehead to fix it.
He couldn't do it today, though.
No,
I
he
mean, that
couldn't.
was like
No, he
that
couldn't.
was like the nascent state of Ethereum,
Yeah,
was that there was a person with so much influence that they could do that. But now I think it's just too hard.
I agree. It's too big, and more people understand the reasoning behind doing or not doing such a thing. But it's very interesting because the same community was very much behind Ethereum then, the decentralized everything community. And even those people look to a figurehead instinctually for answers to something. So I think when people claim like, I feel like crypto is often put in the same bucket as like complete and total anarchy, remove all authority and figureheads. Everyone polices themselves. I think that's just a stupid approach because, first of all, that alienates anyone that's on the fence, not sure. It alienates pretty much all the people with any real incumbent power or ability right now, which is not necessary. And secondly, it goes against human nature in the first place. People are never going to actually be 100% decentralized. And I think we've proved that throughout history, at least this generation. Maybe social constructs will change in the future, but right now you can't just copy and paste a decentralized system, remove all authority and all structure, and just say, figure it out. My opinion, obviously.
I, I've started to think of decentralization as more of a like almost like liquidity, like how easy is it to reform the structure,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like in like the dumb example, like the EOS block producers, there's 21 of them. They basically kind of have a cabal, right?
Yeah.
And even though there's 11 mining pools control the entire hash power of Ethereum, I think it's very easy for that set to change
Mm-hmm.
without like a theater, right, of decentralization. That actually like one goes away, another will pop up
Right.
without anyone even knowing about it.
Without intervention.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that to me seems to be like the key part to it. Isn't so much, you still need to have some group large enough, right, versus just one person. But
Yeah.
in theory, right, just a single entity that's like a single block producer that could be switched out at any moment
Yeah.
without friction, that could also work, right?
Right. Because then that
Yeah.
creates, to an extent, if you can be removed at any point with no downtime and you're being held responsible for your actions, while it's not decentralized from the perspective of how many or how voluminous the power
Yeah.
decision makers are, you can be removed if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So, I agree. It takes many forms. I just, I often fight against the idea of projects being measured by 100% complete decentralization because A, it doesn't exist, and B, I don't even know if that's the recipe for success here either. Um, you know, Privacy is another one of those topics. Privacy is important to people. It's important to me for sure. But there are people still using Bitcoin and saying, "Oh, I'm using Bitcoin. I'm private." Meanwhile, they've tweeted their public key address online twice, and now their whole entire privacy structure is gone, right? There are these like misnomers in the space like that. People looking for privacy in places where there really isn't any. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is also strange. You're building effectively an immutable log of everything that you do financially,
yeah, yeah,
and that often scares me.
for sure.
Um,
Yeah, and if it's not architected or engineered properly too, it's you
and
place trust in it.
it's not even clear that that's possible. Like Zcash to me seems to be like the only approach. There's actually an updated version called Sonic, which allows the kind of the cryptographic like secret goo to be continuously updated.
Yeah.
But it's still like it's so complex that me as an engineer, I have to trust the person that's telling me about it
Hmm.
versus me understanding the paper
Yeah,
and trusting the math and the implementation.
for sure.
And that is a huge hurdle, right?
Definitely.
um,
I've tried several times to write a script for a video that explains ZK snarks and ZK starks to people in a digestible way, and I've yet to find an actual, even close to airtight analogy that doesn't involve just the math and the crazy
yeah,
stuff that happens behind the scenes. It's very difficult to explain.
yeah.
But
What do you actually feel is the role of influencers in this space? Like, is YouTube going to be like synonymous with crypto? Like, are those things going to exist forever together, right? Conjoined twins?
it's tough to say. I mean, YouTube is like a whole other debate, and
Right.
like people hate on YouTube a lot, and I understand why, because there's a lot of like, you say censorship's a problem, and then you have, um, their reliance on advertisers. I think while some of it's self-inflicted, I think YouTube has absolutely no control now over the decisions that they make at the executive level related to policy on platform, and that includes to crypto. I have friends and colleagues that had YouTube channels in the crypto space that were, involved in it. They were maybe on an extreme end on one side or the other about crypto, and their channels got chopped because they obviously were pushing buttons, right? And to that extent, I understand why people are angry. And there's no easy solution, but I think YouTube's issue right now is that they are responsible to their revenue model, and that is advertisers. So advertisers can say, hey, I'm not cool with you paying my money to people that are involved in X, Y, Z. I'm not comfortable with this opinion. And then they
That,
have to do something.
that's not like a new problem though, right? Like
No.
newspapers, right, were advertiser driven, right?
Yeah.
And they would change the content of what they said, political speech,
Yeah.
right? Even like
Agreed.
speeches, right?
And that's why it's not it's not an easy solution, or it's not an easy problem to solve in the first place. Um, but to answer your main question, yes, I think YouTube is going to have a place in crypto, but I don't think that this environment where people go on YouTube and just like tell people to buy stuff is going to last forever, because either A, YouTube is going to crack down when inevitably governments all over the world start realizing like we're going to do something about it. Likely the CFTC will just say like blanket statement, no asset class can be advertised online, you cannot drive investment, blah blah blah, whatever. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it might. And we also then are probably going to see YouTube just cutting monetization and just starving those people out of the platform instead of just shutting them down altogether, which they're already kind of starting to do, to be quite honest with you. um, for me, like in the past when I started my channel originally, I thought the only way I'm going to get anyone to watch my content is for me to make commentary about price and stuff, but I'm not really a trader. I was thinking about it all from the tech side, and all my substantiation for anything that I said was like, I like the tech, right? So I just decided there's no point in trying to like talk about stuff that A, I don't really care about that much, and B, I don't do technical analysis or trading or any of that. So I just switched gears to all informational for the most part, and tutorial stuff, and it's worked out pretty well to that end.
It's a weird world we live in, because um, us humans, we can't possibly absorb all the information out there, so we rely on people to tell us like what they learned,
Yeah.
right? Compress it, like give us like the executive summary,
Yeah.
and those people need to eat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really
Right.
where
Yeah.
that's where my head is at with the YouTube content. I think for me personally, the goal is always to give people a place to go to get the knowledge of what the white paper says, or what the Medium articles say about a protocol or a platform. Because a lot of times, no matter how much effort is being put into the engine from the engineer side to convey what they're doing in, for lack of a better term, common English, it doesn't actually work that well for people. And A, people are lazy. B, people don't all understand the jargon that's used. So that's the need that I try and fill, is just to give people information about how stuff works and shed light on stuff that people might not see. And yeah.
Do you think do you think that we'll actually see like deplatformization? Like people will start to self-publish, self-host, like self-promote. So basically move off YouTube, you know, run their own channel because it's just data, right? It's just
Yeah.
video. You have all the tools to do it, right? Just
Well, I think the only reason content creators still go on YouTube is not because of the ad revenue. It's because of the number of mindless people, including myself, who sit on YouTube and just refresh the page 50 times an
Right.
hour to see what cool new stuff they can learn, right?
Yeah.
So it's like captive eyes. You have like a billion people, maybe like 10, but anywhere between 10,000 and multi-million people will be interested in the topic you're talking about. And as long as you have eyes on your videos that already know where to go, that helps. So maybe there will be more self-publishing in the future, but only when there is a less profit-driven beast governing search, if there's ever a non-profit driven beast governing search.
That's that is like, I think that the fact that there is a profit-driven beast that's organizing all of the world's information
Yeah,
is hard to beat.
it's tough. And that's the reason why, I still post my videos on my own personal website. But that my personal website, even when queried directly, is only going to be, it's always going to appear below the YouTube video cards and my YouTube channel and maybe other like suggested content. It's going to be still like fifth or sixth in line. So my
Yeah.
odds of getting my videos found from my own website are like slim pickings compared to what I can get from the profit
Yeah.
driven beast. So yeah, it's complicated. And influencers, and I don't even really think of myself as an influencer because I don't really try and influence people. I just kind of put stuff out there. I share the stuff that I like and that I care about, and if they care about it too, then that's totally cool. I usually try and stop short of selling something unless it's something I really, really believe in. Um, but there is an importance to having that out there. Like if you have a company talking to you and trying to tell you what's valuable, like what the value of their platform or protocol or product is, you're like, yeah, okay, obviously you want me to buy what you're selling because you make money. Influencers also can make money from promoting something, but you can then try and find like who you can trust, right? Who's going to give you you know, their actual thoughts and opinions about something, and who do you trust and know that they're not going to just take a partnership or money for something they don't believe in. So
Yeah.
trustworthy influencers, however numerous they are important still.
Uh, there's like 80s cyberpunk that kind of talked about people whose lives were basically full-time reality TV.
Yeah.
Like, is that like the next step for influencers, that's like becomes a professionalized core where your like whole life gets put on display?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would hate that, but I will say,
I would imagine everybody would hate
yeah,
it, but
like
still.
everyone has an opinion, and I'm already like my presence online. It's like it's large for my standards, but like there are people that have so much more eyes and so many more opinions and etc. But even the limited amount of stuff that I receive in terms of comments and whatever, solicited or otherwise, you know, it's tough because everyone has an opinion about what you're doing, what you say, how you say it, and that's like an unfounded, like unprecedented thing for human beings. I think when you're like
Yeah.
everything you do is like microscoped by people who have absolutely no responsibility for what they say because they're behind an avatar, right?
Yeah.
So there's like it's a double-edged sword for the influencer type people. It's like it's a if done properly and done with integrity, it's a good honest living, but it's also a very harsh way of going like of living your life.
Sorry, like my AirPods died
Oh,
in the
no
middle of
worries.
this. Yeah, it happens. Um,
All good. Movie magic.
yeah, I know. Yeah, we're getting close to. Do you want to cover anything else? Seems like we. Um,
was gonna say, if you had any other topics, I'm cool to chat until 3:30. Otherwise, we're cool. We can find a way to kind of like naturally wrap.
Sure. So I guess like what do you want to see in the next year? And
That's a good one. In the next year, I think we need some of these platforms like Cardano, like Ethereum, even smaller ones that are new, Solana, right? We need to see them coming forward with mainnet products that are real implementations of the ideas that are high quality. I will add the ideas that they've had on papers and in literature, and get those things out there so that we can have some real competition that's founded less about the paper and what they're gonna do, but about what they have created, and then what people are seeing when it's out there in the real world. Because like EOS, Neo, Cardano, Zilliqa, all these platforms that had a lot of attention, had a lot of hype, you know, they're all in varying levels of like implementation of what they've said they wanted to do. So we need those platforms in the next year to either say we did it and we're happy with what we've got, or we can't do it, and just then let people hash it out. That's going to be interesting and key for me.
so I'm personally excited. Like, you know, we're gonna launch, everyone's gonna launch. Even if all that stuff goes well, I think what I'm excited about is that right now everyone is heads down working on their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we launch and ship, we will start to look around, and whoever is the fastest at adopting everyone else's good ideas is going to win.
Yeah.
and and then like progress will be like exponentially fast. Like it seems slow right now, and that's because I think while almost everything's open source and papers are all published, publicly, the ideas aren't being cross pollinated to implementation as much
Yeah.
because we don't. But it's gonna happen, and then that will be, I think, like the exponential boom in the space.
Yeah, I would agree. It's like we're in sort of like Cold War standoff mode where everyone's sort of behind the scenes tinkering, and you
I,
know,
I don't even think it's like Cold War. We're just too busy. Like I honestly like I see awesome papers come out of like a lot of really good projects like
definitely.
Near, Chia, and I just enough time. Like I can skim it, read the abstract, and be like, this is cool. Okay, I'll shelf it and then think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'll digest that while I sleep.
right.
you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a really cool next year or two, I think, as like a lot of people have 2020 as their like V1. I'm not even saying they need to be like done, but their V1 mainnet that captures the original vision for what they wanted to do. It's going to be really cool to see.
A lot of people were trying to make that 2019, but it is so hard to launch a chain.
It is.
Just yeah, yeah. We're trying to do this right now. So we're trying to corral a community of people to
Hmm.
boot up their computers and then like not go to sleep and make sure they keep running.
Yeah,
Uh,
and then you try and run it like a decentralized business model where
yeah,
people are not under payroll of a central company, whatever. It's even harder because then you're like relying on volunteers or people that just
yeah,
believe, and so they'll do it for free. It's like,
yeah. That's the hard part.
yeah.
Like, actually, community building and building like a true decentralized set of individuals that are all bought into this crazy idea is
Hmm.
harder than I think consensus.
It is, yeah. The technical part is only the first part. Like a blockchain is completely useless, and the numbers that you can get out of it in terms of throughput are totally useless if you don't have people actually using it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
in the short term, it's not as simple as going into Google and typing in like getting a binary install, like a 2-click install, and everything just works. There's sometimes it requires people to do stuff that's not in their comfort zone to get
yeah.
active. So crazy. But I think in the sense In the sense of building community, that's where the social media side comes in, and that's where the quote unquote influencer side comes in, because you can get more people at least aware and engaged using
Yeah.
that avenue, as long as you choose wisely and who is speaking on behalf of you, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely.
Cool. So we're getting close, I think, to our time. It's been super fun to talk with you. Really nice to have you.
Definitely, man. Thanks. I love talking about this stuff. So thanks for having me. And I'm interested to see what happens with Solana as the clock ticks. You know.
Awesome. Do you want to do you want to plug your like YouTube channel, like if that helps?
Sure thing. Yeah. Big thank you to the Solana team for setting this up and having me. Great conversation. You can always find me on YouTube if you just search Hashoshi, Hashoshi, in the search bar. I look forward to engaging with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much, and yeah, take care.
Awesome. Take care. Cheers.
Cool. That works, I think.